Hello friends, it's Heather. Welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. In tonight's video, I'm giving you a quick review of the movie Complete Unknown, which is sort of a biopic. Okay, question, is it biopic or biopic? I usually say biopic, but I keep hearing people say biopic. How do you say it? Which is right? Okay, it was a movie about Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan is basically the same age as my dad. It's like in his early 80s, still alive, which I didn't actually realize until we got to the end of this movie. Through the whole movie, I was sitting there thinking to myself, trying to rack my brain to figure out if I knew if he was still alive, and if he had died, when was that and how did he die? And I couldn't come up with an answer, and then I realized it's because he's still alive. I don't know how people feel about... I guess they make movies when people are still alive all the time. I don't... Yeah, anyway, okay. I went to this movie, my local movie theater, with my daughter on a very rainy Friday night in December 27th, 2024. It just came out on Christmas Day, so just a couple days ago. It was moderately busy in our showing. The movie theater was jam-packed, crazy busy. I went into this knowing very little to nothing about Bob Dylan. Okay, so I'm very familiar with Bob Dylan's music. Megan, my daughter, going into it, couldn't think of like what Bob Dylan's music, what did he sing or whatever, but then hearing the songs in the movie, she would like turn to me and like, oh yeah, I know this one. I mean, I have kind of a general knowledge of Bob Dylan just from growing up, and like even when I was a kid in the 70s, Bob Dylan would be on the radio, but I knew about him just kind of in a general way, sort of like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, same kind of generation thing. So, but I didn't really know anything about his life going into this. So this is one of those times where I was really hoping I would learn something about his life from the movie, and I feel like I don't know any more now than I did before. One of the most significant characters in the movie is Joan Baez, the folk singer. She's a very significant character in the movie, and they apparently had a on and off again relationship that overlapped with his relationship with this other woman, Sylvie, who I don't think they ever told us her last name. So I'm making this review. I literally just got home from the movie. I'm going to watch some other YouTube videos, and Megan's frantically looking stuff up now. But I don't want to know any of that yet. I just want to give you my fresh from the movie, this is all I know impressions. So I don't know how much of the whole thing with their relationship with these two women was true, or if he ever had any other kind of relationship or ever got married or anything. I have no idea. The movie did not tell us. So I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping to find out more about him from the movie, and I really didn't. It doesn't go very much into his life at all. It said in the ending credits that it was based on somebody's book called Bob Dylan Goes Electric, and basically the topic, I guess, that the movie was sort of focused on was Bob Dylan's progression from a straight folk musician to more of like a popular, more rock artist, I guess, and how people really didn't want him to do that at the time, that they all wanted him to stay a folk artist. The other person who's a really big character in the movie is Pete Seeger, and it centers a lot around how they had the Newport Folk Festival, and Bob Dylan was playing at the Newport Folk Festival, and Pete Seeger had like this TV show and stuff like that, and he was very folk focused. That was really kind of what the movie centered on, was like how Bob Dylan's music changed over time. It starts in 1961. It really only, it's only really a small piece of his life, because it started in 1961 when he came to New York City, and it only really went through 1965. So it was really only like 4 or 5 years. A lot of important stuff happens in that time. Like they show little bits of like the Cuban Missile Crisis and Kennedy's assassination and things like that. That's really not a very long period of time. But I guess they were sort of saying that it was a very significant period of time for Bob Dylan's music. It kind of goes from him being discovered, he's sort of discovered by Pete Seeger, and then becoming very famous very rapidly. He also has kind of an ongoing letter writing relationship, and then they kind of are friends with Johnny Cash. And I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure that the same director directed this movie that directed Walk the Line, which was the biopic with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon about Johnny Cash. And I loved that movie. I absolutely loved that movie and thought it was extremely well done. And that Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job playing Johnny Cash. And Reese Witherspoon, that's like the one thing I really, really like her in, is when she played June Carter Cash in that movie. That one was amazing, and I loved that movie as far as like a music biopic. And that one I really feel like I did learn a lot about Johnny Cash from that movie. But this one, yeah, I just didn't really feel like I learned very much about Bob Dylan. Megan and I both agreed it was kind of boring. Like half an hour, 45 minutes in, we were both checking our watch a lot, and we were both kind of thinking, gosh, this is kind of slow and kind of boring. And Megan's overall take was she didn't really see the point of it. Like, what was the purpose of this movie? Given all that, it was a very well done, well produced movie with a very good cast, very well acted. And the one standout I would have to say was Timothée Chalamet's portrayal of Bob Dylan. He did an absolutely amazing job. This was one of these times where the actor literally transformed himself into the character. And we've seen this before. Everything from, I kept thinking of Austin Butler playing Elvis in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. It was like that. It was like he completely transformed himself. I think of like Val Kilmer playing Jim Morrison in The Doors, or Jamie Foxx playing Ray Charles in Ray. It was like that. It was a really well done transformation into the character where you hardly remembered that an actor was even playing them. And Megan stayed and watched at the end through the credits, and Timothée Chalamet did all the music himself. He sang all the songs, he played the guitar, he played all the instruments, he played the harmonica, everything. So that part alone was extremely impressive. This was a very good portrayal of Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was kind of weird. He's kind of a weird guy, and he gets increasingly weird as the movie goes on. And he acts in such a strange way. Does anybody know? We actually wondered if he's autistic or something. I don't know. His just behavior and stuff, the way he interacts with people is very unusual. And the one thing that really struck us, being that we live basically in Minnesota, is that, he's from Minnesota. He's from the Twin Cities. And that's where we live. And he doesn't seem like somebody that's from here. He doesn't sound or act in a way like somebody from Minnesota would sound or act. And so it kind of throws me off that Bob Dylan is from Minnesota, because he doesn't seem like he is. His voice is just so unusual and strange and everything. I mean, not even just his singing voice, but his speaking voice too. But Timothée Chalamet does an amazing job of capturing it exactly like how Bob Dylan sounded and acted and everything. And I keep talking in past tense like he's passed away, but apparently he is still alive, which I didn't know. The acting in this was really, really good. I also would say that the two women that played Sylvie and that played Joan Baez also did an amazing job in this movie. And Edward Norton, too, as Pete Seeger, he was great. It was a very different role than I've ever seen him in before, and he did a really good job, too. But basically, the movie left me with a lot of questions and wondering about a lot of things, and so I'm probably going to be watching YouTube videos about it, looking things up and stuff to find out more, because I was left with more questions from the movie after seeing it than I had going into it. The other thing I will say is Megan and I were probably the youngest people in the theater. So there were a lot of older people that obviously, came of age or grew up in the 60s, or, that were older than me, more like my parents' age, that were in there to see the movie. I don't know if that would make a difference to you. It's not that a younger person wouldn't be interested, but I definitely would say it was probably one of my least favorite biopics of a musical person that I've seen, as far as like how interesting it was and how entertaining it was. It was still a very well done movie, but it wasn't that interesting to me and it wasn't very entertaining. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It was a very well done quality movie, but it didn't really, again, it wasn't very interesting. It wasn't very entertaining to me personally, and Megan agreed with me. So that's what I would give Complete Unknown. I'd give it 3 out of 5. But even saying that, I think that Timothée Chalamet will probably be nominated for awards for it, and maybe some other people involved with the production of the movie. So that would be something that wouldn't surprise me as we go into award season. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and I'll see you next time.